Hi everyone, thank you for being here today. Today I'm going to speak about project delivery process, and this is our short agenda for today. I'm just going to run a little bit to introduction. So I'm Ivana and I am BIM manager for Tim Kelly Group. I have bachelor and master degree in civil engineering, and I started working with M&E services in 2020 when I moved to Ireland. Actually, my first experience with Revit and BIM was in 2017 when I worked for Precast design consulting company, where in almost 3 years I modeled around 500,000 square meters of industrial buildings. My company specializes in the design, installation, and manufacturing of the mechanical, electrical, and construction services, and they are a leading pharmaceutical contractor for mechanical services in the west of Ireland. Core to success is strong customer focus and experience and expertise combined with innovation using BIM. These are some of our recent projects, and on some of them we were both M&E coordinators, but there are also jobs where we worked on only one discipline, and I have to mention that this is making coordination process a nightmare. When we have to coordinate services between two different companies, it always takes way much more time than it should be if it would stay in one company. These are a few snips from our recent models, just showing services and the way we are doing it. And speaking about digital journey, we are all aware that AC industry is quickly adopting changes, and there's no specific rule on how to do it, but it can definitely be adjusted for each company needs. For smaller companies, it's always a challenge because when you start looking at information, it's just overwhelming, but just start working and you'll see the benefits. So it's going to make process easier. This is the overview of our digital transition. It all started in 2015 when a company utilized BIM tools for first time. And then in 2020, they decided to have an in-house BIM department. And in 2021, we proceed our digital transition by setting up our common data environment system. And right now, we are creating a plan for project management system. So here I have a graphic showing that digital transition. So from 2015, outsourcing teams were working with Autodesk, CAD, and Revit to produce 2D or 3D coordination. They were delivering project documentation from the models, but it was on the really low level, and they were still using paper drawings on site. Into 2020, we have developed our BIM in-house team, and we started increasing LOD and LOE, but just on the level that it's really required, because at this point we already knew that recasting the bigger level of detail is not always a good thing. It's just a waste of time in some situations. So then we decided to use Autodesk Construction Cloud platform for our document management system, and it worked perfect in the last year, so we decided to go a step further and set up our project management platform on Autodesk Construction Cloud. Right now we are delivering our project documentation in a digital form that is always available to all our project members on our platform, and they can access it on their iPads and BIM cabinets on site at any time. Pre-construction stage is really important from our point of view, and the best thing here is to understand what is the information that you are required to deliver. So you have to understand first that BIM model contains graphical, non-graphical, and documentation data, and it's not just pure geometry. So first make sure that your workflows are tested and that they are working perfectly prior to the beginning of the job. I suggest reviewing design team documents because we are seeing discrepancies between them all the time. And also you should review exchange information requirements from the client in order to understand what is the information required from you. Once you have understood these items, and you can now plan how to deliver all these tasks. So task information delivery plan will tell all about your task, the file formats, who is the person responsible, and also the delivery date. This TIDP will be a part of BIM execution plan that is usually, in our case, part of main contractor's job. Then you can start your coordination process, which for a final product will have construction layouts and model. I cannot skip to mention standard method procedure checks when I'm speaking about pre-construction stage, and I believe that three, the most important ones, are volume strategy, PIM origin orientation, and file naming convention. So I'm just going to run quickly through them. Volume strategy is really important one, because if you take a look here, we have University Hospital in Galway, and this is MEP model. If we would start clash detection here, you would have around 15,000 clashes, and just going and reviewing them, it would be a waste of time. So what we usually do, even if it's not defined but by the BIM execution plan, we try to split services as much as possible in order to deliver more quality information and what is most important, in time. So you can split your model by systems or floors or by zones, which was done in this case. Then speaking about origin orientation, it's just the most important thing to understand is that there's two types of coordinate systems in Revit, internal and shared ones. Internal is just a generic one that your model gets, and shared coordinates is what is used for multidisciplinary models and coordination. So make sure to work with right coordinates. And file naming convention, this is the metadata system that we have in use. It's quite simple, but it's really important when you have information exchanged on a daily basis with the multidisciplinary companies and organization. Two metadatas that we don't use in our file naming convention, but that are really important, are suitability or status of your document, and also revision. So make sure to have them on your title blocks or cover pages of your document. Coordination workflow, I found this graphic from BIM Corner, which really nice represent 10 steps for multidisciplinary coordination. So I'm just going to quickly run through all of them. So step one is correct model placement. As I mentioned earlier, coordinates are really important because they can lead you to having a leak of collisions or many collisions, which will lead you to underestimated coordination, and then you could have possible issues on site. I think we all know how much that costs, including money, time, and work, so we all want to avoid these issues on site. And here you can see a snip of a recent job there, where when you look at the model from the outside, it looked like everything sits perfect in a perfect position, but then we made a cross-section through the building, and we saw that mechanical model was around half floor of the other models, and we have lack of collisions, and once we positioned models correctly, it looked completely different, which made our life even harder. So step two would be choosing right coordination tools. There's many options out there, as we could hear today, but I'd say we don't really use, you can have this coordination tool included in your modeling tool, such as interference check in Revit. We really don't use this one. We use Navisworks Manage as our coordination tool, which allows us to federate models. It has really nice clash detection tool and allow us to create viewpoints at redlining comments and assigning issues. And we use another one which is included in our CD, which is model coordination module from Autodesk Construction Cloud. Understanding Navisworks file formats is really important, and it still happens that I receive NWF file with missing all the references. So NWD is for sharing outside of your company. NWC is cached file of the original, and your reference file or your file set where all federated models are acting as an XREFs is your NWF file. Step number 3 would be proper export to IFC format. I have to say that we are not using this because all our softwares are, almost all of them are Autodesk, so we really don't have need for this, but we usually get structural models in IFC formats. And speaking of that, just make sure that they are exported properly so you can actually use all the data from these models. Combining discipline models, once you have chosen your coordination tool, then you can just federate out models and run your clash detection. And we are using Navisworks Manage, but also there's a great tool on ACC Cloud that also allow you to do this straight away on a platform. Another thing, they have also add-in for Navisworks that we are using where you can easily assign all issues to your platform. Scope of work, really important part of coordination and pre-construction process. So smaller scope of work means you're getting better quality of coordination and information delivery. Scope of work, it's not working. Mike? Yeah, it's red, but it's not working.
This guy's better with the mics than me. So.
Okay. Yep. You think? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, we're good. So scope of work is really an important part of coordination and pre-construction stage. Smaller scope of work means you will deliver better quality of coordination and you will be able to provide your information in time. Just a tip, make sure that your scope of work is following the way the building is built, because that is the order in which the information will be required from you. Rules for model checking, really, I think every company should have a checklist, and this should include items that are to be checked and in which order. Keep in mind that structure always takes priority, and keep this as a top item on your list to check all your services against the structure, and make sure that clearance zones are included in this checklist. These are some issues that we are experiencing on almost every job. Some steel structure elements are missing, then sectional and roller door casings are either missing or they are not shown correctly, and they always have some clearance zones that are not shown. So make sure that you see these in the model, and if you don't, RFI them and discover what is the space that you can use. And there are multiple things that are changing during the construction stage, like position of the ceiling tiles, sanitary ware facilities. So just make sure that you're working with the right information. Once you have your checklist in place, you can start your model checking. As we said earlier, it's better to split your model and decide what is your scope of work and carry out the model checking that way. As I mentioned earlier, we are using ACC model coordination module add-in for Navisworks, where we can assign clashes straight away from Navisworks to our common data environment, and then we can track our issues on the document management system. These are just a few snips of our recent clashes. And assigning issues to project members. So I mentioned option 1, and the option 2 would be to assign issues straight away in a Navisworks Manage, where you can share your clash reports. From the clash detective tool, you can filter what clashes you want to show, or you want to show snips and viewpoints with them. And the last thing is really important, and that's the BIM is not only about creating data but also analyzing data. So this is where clash report importance is really visible, and then we can analyze who is responsible for what, where do we have clashes, why do we have them, and the most important thing is how we can resolve them. So really efficient BIM coordination meetings and communication between different departments can speed up the coordination process. And this is just a snip that shows how we do our analysis on the model coordination module. So we can see and filter by every model or every item in all the models to see where exactly we have the most clashes. So you can see here in orange, I don't know, can you see it? Yeah. So you can see here in orange that we have just between two models more than 500 clashes. So that is really a sign that we should take a look what's going on there and why we have a lot of issues. For construction stage, it's just if you did everything right in pre-construction stage, this is the time where you will just have to track issues if there are any on site and to update your models to match the as-built model for the as-built record. And I would like to quote Frank Lloyd Wright, and its fun fact is that Brian also quote architect from the early 30s, but this really represents the importance of using BIM in an early stage of a project in order to avoid all the mistakes that could happen later during construction. Thank you so much for your attention.